But beyond that, yeah, the guy comes in and he's like, Kavoth and Bass go upstairs, and Kavoth's like, I wonder what old Lant wants to keep secret. Hope he's not too long about it. And Bass says he's got 2 children by the widow Creel. Really? Bass shrugged. Everyone in town knows. So old his mayor, you kind of acted like he's a little bit of a dick, but then we find out that he's cheating on his wife and he has a whole nother family. Oh, he's very popular with people. Like, so it just blew up. Everybody knows. They still elected him mayor. He's got 2 families. He's got like your family likes you. He's got an entirely second one. And he's leaving them stuff. He's making he's making a deal to leave them some stuff in his will. So this dude, like, really turned around the characterization right there. That he is super popular, super cool. Everybody loves him. You're totally wrong.
I love how you're turning this into like a positive. That he's has 2 families.
Yeah, don't you feel foolish?
Yeah. Yes, I have egg on my face on this one.
Yeah, everybody loves it, man. Everybody in town. But yeah, and then so Bass is like asking what they're gonna do, and he's like, "You could teach me lessons," and so they come up with Bass doesn't want to do any kind of book lessons. Says, "All right, so a puzzle lesson then." Bass' face broke into a grin. "Very well. Let me think for a second." He tapped his fingers against his lips and let his eyes wander the room. Wasn't long before they were drawn to the foot of the bed where the dark chest lay. He made a casual gesture. "How would you open my chest if you had a mind to?" Which is, this part's real interesting to me because we see that it's obviously weighing on him pretty big in the first one, but he doesn't make an attempt to open it in the first book. And then we see it here again, he's drawn to it and he asks Bass to open it. So the first time you go through it, you're not thinking that Kavoth doesn't have any ability to open this chest. And then you find out, towards the end, when Kavoth tries to open it, gets the keys for it and everything, and, is completely dejected when he can't get it open. And then you're like, oh shit. So there's something major fucking going on here. Like, he can't fucking, whether it's his box or he got it from someone else, it's his chest or he stole it from someone. Regardless, whatever's locked inside, he desperately wants right now, and he can't get to it. So it's not just that he's asking Bass, giving him a cool puzzle. He's also seeing, if Bass can come up with any ideas that can help him.
Yeah, when you first read through it, it just reminds me of like Abinthy with Kavoth. Kavoth is playing the Abinthy role, giving him a puzzle, because again, we don't know that he can't get into it. Finding that out, that kind of changes everything when you read through it. There's more like, it's more kind of somber and kind of sad because he can't get into it. So Bash just goes into it with like, initially he just tries to solve it, and then it's kind of like wild abandonment when he's trying to like get into it. But
well, at first he's like, you're thrice like chest rushy. Yeah, Kavoth looked at his student and then laughter bubbled up out of him. Like, what? He asked incredulously. Bass blushed and looked down. That's just how I think of it, he mumbled. As names go, Kavoth hesitated, a smile playing around his mouth. Well, it's a little storybook, don't you think? You're the one who made the thing, Rushy, Bass said sullenly. 3 locks and fancy wood and all that. It's not my fault if it sounds storybook. It's a fine name, Bass. Just caught me a little off guard is all. But I like that part. That was my what? Because that's how everybody thinks of it too. Now, after we read that, from then on, the way it's described as the thrice lock chest or the thrice lock box, people, that gets interchanged. But yeah, so it was a good name because it caught on.
Bast has a knack for naming. It seems he has some skill with it.
I like so how would you attempt to plunder the thrice locked chest of Kavoth the Bloodless? Bass smiled. You sound like a pirate when you say it that way, Rushy. But yeah, he's trying to, he doesn't know, he can't get into it. Obviously, whatever's happened to him is preventing, I shouldn't say that. I think it's likely that whatever happened to him is preventing him from being able to open the box. There's probably naming is required and opening the box, and he doesn't seem to have that ability anymore. So I think that likely when he changed his name, I think shaping was probably involved in it, and that fundamentally changed him. It's not just like he's going by a different name. I think he was fundamentally changed where now he doesn't have the ability to name or use sympathy because he lost all the work that led up to him gaining all those abilities. I think he's lost him now. And I also think that's why he can't really do the ADEM movements and skills. Like he still has the memory of how to do the movements and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But when he tried to utilize them, he couldn't do it. So I think what's happened is he's lost by changing, who he is. He's lost those, the abilities, the muscle memory and that kind of aspect of, the building his alar and whatever it is about the sleeping mind. I think all those things, his muscle memory and the alar and the sleeping mind, I think all those disappear when he fundamentally changed himself. So he doesn't have those anymore. So that's why I think he can't get in the boxes. I think he needs to name or something along those lines to be able to do it. But now that he's Kote, he can't name, so he can't get in there. So he's asking Bast because he wants to see if there's some idea that Bast can think of that he hasn't thought of as a way to circumvent whatever it is that he's done to keep the box, from being opened by a stranger. It could also be not his box, but I think that's less likely.
I was going to say, I mean, that's one hell of a way to lock it. I mean, how would you happen to ever get into it? Like, if he did create it, if he did make the box, and he has the locks, and he has the keys and all this shit, and he has his own special way of doing or having a lock, which needs to be undone with naming, what the fuck? I mean, how would anyone ever get into this thing?
Yeah. Yeah, some people think, like he's locked his name in the chest, and I don't think that. Like, I don't get I think that's too storybook. I don't think that you can literally lock a name in a box. I don't even know what that would mean to do that. It just doesn't seem like something Rothfuss would do. It seems like that would be a story, like Jax locked the name of the moon inside the box. Like, that's the story of what he did, but I think it's fundamentally he does something different. Like, the truth behind the story is probably has something to do with naming, but it's different than that. When you actually learn exactly what the person does, I think it's different than that. But regardless, what I think it could be is that there's items that he needs to. One possibility I think it could be is that, let's say Denna sacrificed herself to shut the doors of stone, and she had to go in there. Like, they opened them, but then ultimately she goes behind the doors and locks it from the inside and shuts it again. And Kavoth is in a situation where he can't open those because it could destroy the world. But he's so tied to Denna and so desperately in love with her that he knows that he will be tempted to do it again. So what if he changed who he is fundamentally, put the stuff in the chest, changed who he is fundamentally, so that now things that he needs to open the doors of stone are in the chest, and then he has like Ari shape his name and change him into something else, and now even if he wanted to get into the chest, he's not able to because Ari fundamentally changed who he is, or something along those lines. I could see the story going down a path like that, is, because you're thinking it doesn't seem like there would be much behind, locking your loot in the chest, because like you could just go buy another loot.
Yeah.
So it's got to be something that he needs for like some purpose.
Well, it seems like it would be, why lock it in a way that you can't get to it? It's something that you should not. It's something that you need to prevent yourself from being able to do, and it does tie in, at least in my mind, to Lanre and Lyra, in that he did something that he shouldn't have done, but he couldn't help himself because he loved her, right? So for the sake of trying to save her, he goes to the Kote, right? Or he does something that is regrettable, that hurts the world in itself and turns him into, Haliax. So some bit of a similarity with Kavoth is that whatever he did and what he could then undo or create additional problems in the world, preventing himself from that would be locking whatever it is in the box. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could also be that, he locked like his cloak and his rings and all those kind of things. Like he locked his memories, things that would remind him of who he is. He locked all that stuff away because he doesn't want to be reminded. It could be that. I just think that there's something more. It's more important, like that. The
thing with
chest
that, though,
is so hard to open, and it seems like it would have to be something that it's dangerous. It's dangerous for the world if he can get in the Thrice locked chest.
I would agree more with that, because if it's the sentimental novelty items that remind him of his past, why does he hang up the sword?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That those sort of oppose one another,
Yeah.
in terms of the logical sequence. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what I've always had in my mind. I don't know. I don't really have a good guess. I think it is something that would unleash hell on the earth. Whatever he did and then did to try to undo what he did or prevent it getting worse than it got, I feel like that's what is now in the box, right? It's what would get him back to where he was, that unleashed some hell that's still out, right? There's Scrael, and we've talked about this a number of times where, there's Scrael, and there's the stupid, what do you call them?
Skin dancers.
Yeah, there's strippers bumping around all throughout the world now that are killing people. So there's those things that have been unleashed. But yeah, it does make a lot of sense what you're saying about he obviously lost something of himself, because he doesn't have the capabilities that he had prior, in so many different ways and shapes that they're showing us.
Another reason I think that it could be that Denna gets behind, is now locked behind the doors of stone, is that I think what they unleash some things, but I think ultimately that they have to keep Ajax locked behind there, or put him back behind there, because if he's unleashed on the world, and like Bast, it doesn't seem concerned about the Fae, that he's like, Ajax is fundamentally changing the Fae or taking over the Fae, and Kavoth doesn't seem overly concerned like that, the end of the world is coming. He just thinks he's fucked shit up, but does he think like that everybody is doomed? Doesn't really seem like that. He's having Chronicler write a book that people are going to read. It would seem like if you're like, I doom the world and it's all over.
Well, and they're still talking about the road, and they're talking about the taxes, and they're talking about, those problems that exist.
Like, I mean, yeah, like why if they're focused on, and he's trying to keep people from going into the war and that kind of stuff and joining the army, you'd think like if it was a situation where he had put the world on a position where it's going to be destroyed, he wouldn't be hiding. He would be trying to fix his mistake.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that makes sense. So it seems like he did as much as he can do, and now he's just hiding so he doesn't cause more damage.
Yeah.
Maybe is one part of it.
Because that's what I think. Like that's why I think it's because he's not out there trying to fix the problem he created. I think it's a situation where he's like, I don't want to make it worse, and if I'm Kavoth, then that possibility is there. And so I think
maybe
that it would most likely if it was a situation where he had to he would be tempted to save Denna, and saving Denna would fuck shit up much worse. That would be a reason for him to change his name and to hide whatever it is that he uses to open the doors of stone, to put those things in a Thrice locked chest that he can't get into, change his name, so now he can't, he can't fuck shit up anymore, and then just go and wait to die, so that
maybe
you're the potential danger that you represent is eliminated once you're dead. So could be why he's just chilling, waiting to die.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense too, because it's not like he's hiding from people coming to get him and cause him harm. He's hiding so those that could come and convince him to try and do good can't find him. Because if they can find him and convince him to do good again, that good can only do bad in his eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like he tried to already prevent the problem that he created. Plus, he could just be down and out little emo guy, like, he's the reason Ari's dead or something, and he doesn't want to do worse. So that's why he's hiding from those who could convince him to try again. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I think he's blames himself for what's going on, and I also think so. I mean, that's obviously going to weigh in on him, but the fact that he's not out there trying to fix the problem, I think, is he believes that he can't make things better. Like, there's nothing he can do to make them better. He can only make them worse. And so I think he sees himself as a danger to the world. And I don't think it's just like, I make bad decisions, so now I'm going to hide. Because it's not his personality. I think he gets used and in a way where he's set down a path where, he opens the doors of stones, and he realizes, like, they can't open these doors without me. That's, one of the things I'm needed for is my blood. And so if people don't have access to my blood, they think I'm dead. They won't come looking for me to try to use me to get those doors open.
So that kind of feeds. So for the first part of what you said, doesn't fit his personality. His personality would be fix the problem that he's created, because he's done that every other way that we've seen.
And
the other part of what you're saying there, though, is if he was utilized to open the door, being that of the blood, he was fucking duped. He was used, right?
Yeah.
In a way, he was used by somebody, right, to get them open, whether it was the Chandrian or the Amir or whomever it was, Brandor maybe, whoever it was that got him, or Braden, not Brandor, Braden.
Yeah.
Some random fucking teacher at the university. Yeah. It was Jameson. Jameson convinced him to open up the doors.
But no, if he was going to make one of the teachers be like the ultimate villain, one of the teachers that would surprise you, it would be Mandrake, because obviously fucking Rothfuss does not like that guy. Like, Mandrake, like, what question would you like to ask, Mandrake? Pass. But
well, then he squeezed him out of the Kindle version of one of the chapters too.
Yeah,
or it was literally just a sentence, but he wasn't mentioned.
Yeah, well, he mentions every other teacher except for Mandrake, and
except in the. Yeah, I was going to say, in the print copy, he's there.
And he, when all the other teachers ask a question, Mandrake's the only one to pass. But
didn't him and Ari have Devi have a problematic back and forth?
No, that was Arwell, the sympathist teacher.
Oh, yeah. All right.
But with Kavoth, if Kavoth was like the tool that's needed to open the doors of stone, and he's in hiding, that would more fit his personality, because it's not just like, oh man, I'm such a loser, I'm gonna go fucking hide away, so I don't cause any more problems. It's like, no, they need me to open this door, so in order to protect the world, I have to go hide. Yeah. And so it would eat at him too, because he would be like, he would want to go fucking help people and to stop what's going on and to do something about it, like we see with the Scrael. When the Scrael come in town, he goes and immediately goes and puts himself in danger to protect that town. So he's not, he doesn't look at himself as like, well, I better not go fuck with the Scrael, I'll only make it worse. No, he goes out there and does something about it and fucking kills the Scrael. So he's still that kind of person. So I would think it makes more sense that he's hiding to protect the world because of, someone could utilize him as a tool. And so that would be a more heroic fitting end for Kavoth, is that, in order to help help the world and make up for his mistakes, he's got to go fake his death and go into hiding, and then now he's just waiting to die so that no one can use him.
It makes the dynamics of the box much more makes it make a lot more sense. That's not really the way I'm trying to put it. It makes it sort of fit cleaner, or more precisely. You know what I mean? It fits more with. I think it fits more precisely. It's kind of like with why I prefer the version of Braden as as Master Ash, because it sort of fits in more precisely than other reasonings. This is definitely a bit more speculative in terms of, well, what's the reasoning behind it, and what.
Yeah, I mean, it could be any kind of million things. I just the reason like I go down that route is because I think it makes more sense that he's in hiding because that's the best way for him to protect the world. But he still has, because we still see he has a desire to protect. We see it in the when he's in the bar and when he fights the Grail and those kind of things. He still has a desire to protect people. So why isn't he out there,
especially
ending
if
the war
it's
or, going hunting the Grail or hunting skin dancers, trying to solve these problems. And so he wants to be the hero still. So, but the way to be the hero in this situation is to sacrifice his desires to be out in the world doing something. It's to hide away, fake his death and hide away. But you still would get that his desire to just get back out there. So that Thrice lock box, the Thrice lock chest would be a good tool, as he's the way for him to get back to become Kote again. He's prevented that from happening, or even not to become Kote again. Maybe it's to get, behind the doors of stone. You need these items, and he's locked those in there. And so it's kind of a double protection. Not only can he not become Kote again, which is needed, he also you can't get in that Thrice lock box to get whatever these items are. But you still would have that his desire being like, fuck it, man. I know it's the wrong thing to do, but I still want to fucking do it.
Elodin's in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's locked in there with his socks.
And when he pops out, he's like, blue, blue, blue. Wow, Elodin is so blue. He's all depressed because he's been just locked away in this box for over a year.
And the whole time his name was Edro. It wasn't Elodin.
Yeah.
That was his name.
Yeah, Kote wasn't trying to open the box. He just was like, when he says, because he says Edro at one point when he uses the keys. But he wasn't trying to. He was just like, Edro, I miss you so much, Elodin.
I thought maybe he was trolling him. Maybe they had a falling out. He's like, remember what I did.
Just teasing him with the locks, like, oh, look, it's unlocking. Oh, Edro.
The one who brings the blood really holds all this together in quite a nice way as well. And I think that's the biggest part of it. That really ties it all sort of in. Not precisely, because again, a lot of this is still loose and it's kind of open, but for interpretation, we don't know how individuals are going to fit, but we get into it a little bit here, not real precisely with Denna, but we've talked about it, and with her, what she's learning and the unknown sort of secret magic that she's learning. I think she is a key, because I think there has to be that other magic that's going to be key, and I think shaping also is going to play a big part of it too. So we'll have Ari and maybe Devi and all these characters are going to be involved in some way. But yeah, I think Kote will have to, as you were saying, fundamentally alter himself, have himself be altered, and then have to prevent himself from undoing that puzzle.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of like a half-hearted attempt at like trying to undo it, to some degree, right? Either that or he's picking a scab, Yeah. He's just like, he's playing like some masochistic shit and just making himself feel worse by having Bass try to do what he can't do.
Yeah. I mean,
because, well, and actually that metaphor even kind of works on its surface. Sorry, I was just going to say, even the metaphor itself sort of works on its surface where it's like, it's not a very useful lesson. He's like, you've deduced a universal truth. Things are usually unfair. And that's kind of a big part of what he's throwing here, where it's very fatherly, the whole back and forth where he's like, throwing puns at him and doing the, life is unfair. Sooner you learn that, the better type situation that plays out.
Yeah. And one of the locks is made out of copper, which again, I think copper likely is something you can't name for some reason. Mm-hmm. And, maybe it's maybe copper is not something that's mined or something like that, or it was created by Ajax, through shaping or something along those lines. Like it's an element that was created through shaping. But regardless, copper is one of the locks. So if you can't open that with naming, then, it could be that, without that key, even if you were a namer, you still would need to be able to unlock that copper lock, and you can't do it with naming. So that's just like shows like these multiple layers of how to lock this box, so it can't even just be opened by a namer.
Yeah, the copper is interesting because of what we've had with Elodin in the tower and all that use of copper, and the fact that a number of times that's been insinuated. I also like just on its face that it's copper, because as far as I know, copper is like one of the easier metals to like work with in making things.
Yeah.
Yet he puts it in a way, Rothfuss uses it in a way within the book for its opposite, where it's like it's not able to be utilized in the way that they control things. Like nobody knows it. Nobody can know the name of it or something. Until somebody does. Maybe Kvothe does. No, I guess not, because he uses it in the lock, doesn't he? Or maybe he did, and then he altered himself, had himself altered, and now he doesn't know. I don't know. Does he have a copper key?
Yeah, he's got the keys for the chest, and he uses both of them. Like he's got to turn them in different ways and stuff to get them to click to unlock. So there's a puzzle to that. Like he sticks it in all the way, pulls it out halfway, turns it, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. So there's a method as far as it's not even just stick the key in and turn it. There's more to the lock than even that. But he does have both keys for the iron and copper. I believe so. I could not 100%, but fairly certain that he has both keys. But yeah, still, even with the keys, he can't get in. And then, the no hinges, it's also like the Thrice lock box. I mean, the lackless box. So I think it's, highly likely that he's able to open that box at some point. I think that's going to have to do with the Yillish knots. Once he learns to read Yillish knots, it's going to explain how to open that lackless box for him.
There's no, they don't insinuate, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no insinuation on this box, on the chest, that there are those minute etchings like there is in the lackless box, right?
No, I don't think so. At least I don't remember it being mentioned that there is.
Although he may have lost his beautiful hands, the beauty in his hands. He may have lost that touch.
Well, the reason he couldn't feel the lines in that lackless box, it was because they were old and worn away. I don't get the feeling that this is like a super old Thrice lock.
Well, I mean,
chest.
if Bast is right, if what he's saying is true, then Reshi made it, and if he made it, then it wouldn't. Yeah, but you're saying he couldn't feel it. You mean initially?
No, I'm saying the reason that like you can't see the lines or that Maelwyn and the mayor can't feel them is not because that's how it was intended. It was because the lines had mostly worn away through time.
I gotcha.
So that wouldn't be the situation with this. If he'd made this Thrice lock box, you would think would be able to feel those lines or see them.
I gotcha.
But yeah, and so then there's also the line where when Bast knocks on it, and he's Kote says, out of curiosity, what would you do if something knocked back? A lot of people think that there is like cinder inside the box or something along those lines. But I don't think Kote, if it's cinder, I don't think Kote would be looking longingly at this box and being like desperate to open it, like sad, seeming sad and melancholy about it or frustrated. There would be anger or something along, you would think a different emotional, context to him not being able to open this box. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me if it's cinder.
It could be his Slam Jam poetry partner.
Yeah.
That's why he's longing, because they
it's because these are humans, so they would be dead. Unless they got like a a replicator in there that allows them to disappear their well, they might not pee or poop, so that might not be a problem. But the food and water would be a major fucking issue that you would have to
unless
resolve.
It's Haliax, right?
Yeah.
Haliax can't die.
Yeah, unless it's an immortal. So it's unlikely that Ambrose is now an immortal. But what it could be is that the original notes where they created their Slam Jam poetry together, and they had the music sheets and all that kind of stuff, all those are in the box. Mm-hmm. And he's really wishing like he could collect those and put those together and put them in a book and, have the original works of Kote and Ambrose.
The only problem with that theory is he's very good at memorizing songs.
Yeah, but
so
this is really need it. Yeah, but this is in Ambrose's handwriting.
Oh, well, okay.
You lost that. You can't make that back up because he's probably killed Ambrose.
Well, we did kind of skip over, which I thought it was worth mentioning. Bass leans forward, breathes against the lock. When nothing happens, his mouth began to move. While his words were spoken too softly to hear, they carried an undeniable tone of entreaty. It sounded like he was doing either like Gramarye or he's trying to name something.
Whatever that magic is. He does the same thing with the little fucking thorn thing that they put around their head.
The Gramarye, yeah. I mean, because of Tim, I thought of that, but then I'm also remembering he is a student, so maybe he's starting to try to name.
Well, when he describes that, he says, "I put whatever Gramarye I could bear on that."
No, I mean, no, I understand.
That's why it's likely Gramarye.
Yeah, no, I hear it.
Because it's the same. I mean, it's the same thing. He breathes on it and says some words, exactly the same thing, and he described it as Gramarye the last time, so it's almost surely Gramarye again.
I did when Kote does ask him, what would you do if it knocked back? It makes me laugh every time. That was pretty great.
Yeah, and then so Bass gets an axe and he tries to hatchet it, and we get that this thing. He's like, "How much does this weigh, Reshi?" Bass explained, looking rather exasperated. 300 pounds, over 400 when it's empty. Kote said. Remember the trouble we had getting it up the stairs? 400 pounds empty.
Some crazy wood, man.
That's a heavy ass fucking chest. That's like a gun safe.
And the idea of no seam, like the whole thing is just like this Bass little task here would frustrate the bejesus out of me. I hate shit like this. Like this would really this would bother me a whole hell of a lot.
When he talks about that, remember the trouble we had getting it up the stairs. The thing that it gives me flashbacks of having to move a massive gun safe out of a basement and back into another basement, because it took 4 of us, 2 lifting with straps tied to it, 2 lifting with straps, pulling it up the stairs, and then 2 of us at the bottom pushing it up the stairs, and then also had to go back into another basement and move it down, where 2 of us are letting it down, at the bottom, where it's like, man, if the 2 people on top let this go, this thing's probably just gonna roll right over us and we're fucking dead. It was so damn heavy. Like, even with four dudes, and none of us were like fucking weak dudes. We all fucking were strong. Where lifting shit was not that big of a fucking deal, but this thing was heavy as shit. It was intense.
Yeah, that sucks.
It was intense the whole time moving it in and out. And so when they're like talking about, like, I'm guessing they're not using like a, what the
pole cart or
fucking,
something.
yeah, the little
Yeah.
pulley or dolly and straps and stuff. Guessing they're not utilizing those things.
Whatever
It'd be
helps,
very
man.
fucking tough to move something upstairs without a fucking dolly and something where it makes it roll.
Last time I moved a refrigerator, it fell on me up, and then moving the other one down fell on me down. It was fun. It was a good time. It's a lot of good fun. I love moving stuff. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best.
That's why you get paid for it, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's so fun. That's why.
But yeah, and then so, there's not really much to it after that. Like he talks about like, after he tries to hack it apart, and he's like, the bright leaf-shaped blade refused to bite into the wood, each blow turning aside as if Bass were attempting to chop apart a great seamless block of stone. And he's like, I try to set fire to it, but I know Roa doesn't burn. I'd have better luck getting it hot enough so the copper lock would melt. But to do that, I'd need a whole thing to sit face down in a forge fire. And then he talks about like trying to pour acid down the locks. And you get that Kavoth has also thought about this too, because when he talks about like the acid, Kavoth's like, Formaic is useless against Roa, as is Muriatic. You might have some luck with Aqua Regius, but the wood's quite thick and we don't have that much on hand. And so Kavoth has obviously thought about these things too. Mm-hmm. Like you're getting that, like he's sitting there like, how could I he's like, maybe I could use acid on this. But then he's like, well, no, I would need this kind of acid. There's just not enough of that in town. So he's already been thinking about this kind of shit, and you get a little hint of that there. But yeah, and then Bass is like, I was thinking about the locks, and Kavoth's like, well, if you do that, you might ruin whatever's inside. Same thing, with the fire, you could ruin what's inside of it.
Yeah, it's quite a problem he's posed here. I like the hatchet thing too. Is like, well, I like it. It again would be frustrating as shit. It's literally doing nothing.
Yeah,
like you're doing nothing. It's like that's crazy to think. This wood is well, and that's the thing about the wood too. We heard about the frame and how expensive that was. It sounds like this thing's like basically almost priceless.
Yeah,
like a whole chest of this wood is like ridiculously, extravagantly expensive.
And if you give me a hatchet, and I could put some marks into stone, like even if I can't break it, I'm gonna be able to mark it up and fucking put some chips in it at least. For maybe the hatchet might break before I do any real damage to the rock, but or the stone. But I'm at least gonna be able to mark it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this wood is pretty fucking sturdy. Yeah, and then so Bass, like, that's all I have, Rushy. I'll need to think on it some more. Both nodded, looking somewhat disheartened. Bass gathered up his tools and carried them away. That's another hint. His looking disheartened, that he was hoping to get some kind of clue on something that he hadn't thought of. And Bass obviously didn't come up with any ideas that he hadn't thought of himself. He's like, it was a good attempt, Bass. Kavoth reassured him, very methodical. You went about it just as I would have. And again, it seems like Kavoth probably has gone down these paths, because as soon as he brought up the acid, Kavoth starts running down a list of different acids. So yeah, and then the mayor, the super popular, awesome mayor, lets them know that he's done, and they head back down, and Kavoth jumps back into his story. Oh, well, before that, Bass knocks his papers to the ground and tries to pick them up. Kavoth's like, no, leave them. Yeah. Doesn't let him fucking touch those.
Yeah, I was going to say that he's pretty serious about what he wrote there. Does not want even a chance that someone else sees it, apparently.
But yeah, that is all I got for chapter 71.
Yeah,